Hey sis, how's it going? Today I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about how to start crocheting. Now, of course, you just need a ball of yarn. This one's a size 3. I'm looking at the hook size. It's nice and squishy. Yes! You know we love yarn here. And of course, you have the appropriate size crochet hook. Can't really see the size, but it's the right size. So we're going to start with a slip knot. The very beginning. Just gonna wrap a loop around just like that and pull the yarn through the loop, and then you have the tail. Do that again. Make a little circle. Pull the yarn through that circle, and yet again. You'll notice that the yarn that's attached to the ball or skein is called the working yarn, and the yarn that is hanging down the short end is called the tail. Alright, here's how to do it with the hook. Tail yarn is going towards the bottom, working yarn towards the top. Get that hook in there, down and around, and then pull that yarn through that loop with the hook. And notice my hand placement there. That's just to keep everything nice and secure. I'm going to do that again for you. Get that hook down, around. Use your hand to hold that yarn so you can pull it through as you yarn over your hook and pull up. And that is how to make a slip knot. Gotta know how to do that. It's gonna come up a whole lot. You see the ways I'm holding my yarn here. So now we're gonna do our slip knot again, and this time we're going to chain. So chaining is just almost like a row of slip knots. You see how I've got the yarn over the hook there? And I'm holding that tail nice and tight. Well, not too tight, of course. You want to have a workable chain. We'll get into that later. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to yarn over your hook, pull through the loop. Yarn over, pull through. And see, you can't hold your chain too tight, or else you won't be able to get the hook through. And then later, as we do our other stitches, you're going to need to be able to get your hook in there. Okay, so you want to keep it smooth and neat and even without it being too tight. Just yarn over and pull through. And you'll notice a lot of projects start with chain however many, and then you're going to work into those chains. So you want to make sure that your chains are neat and even, but not too tight, or else you're going to make your own life extra difficult. But don't even worry about that, sis. I got you. We're going to look at a way to start your projects without doing all this chaining in just a couple minutes. I'm giving you a nice in-depth tutorial so you can start hooking. Nice and easy, just yarn over and pull through the loop. And that's really all you do when you're crocheting. It's some version of yarning over, pulling through loops, putting that hook into a loop, and yarning over in different directions, or in different ways, or in different amounts. So there's crocheting for you. So there you go. Look at that beautiful, neat, and even chain. And don't worry if your first time chaining doesn't look like this. Remember, y'all, I've been doing this about over 25 years. And quite frankly, I almost always make my chains too tight. So if you have that problem like I do, where your chains are too tight, you're going to want to go up a couple of sizes when you do your foundation chain, which is what we're going to do right now. So what is a foundation chain? A foundation chain is the chain that begins a project. where you chain 1 or chain 2 and work into it. Now right now we're going to do a slip stitch. So what I did was I worked into the second chain from the hook. I went into the chain and I yarned over, and I'm pulling up a loop through both loops. This is the slip stitch. So yarn in, yarn over, pull up through both loops. Okay? This is one of the ways to create neat, even looking rows, denser fabric. It almost kind of looks like knitting sometimes too. But you know, if you really want your project to look knit, I got you, sis. I'll teach you how to knit. When it comes to crocheting, this is about as simple as it gets. You're usually going to see slip stitches used to join fabric, to join chains. It's usually not used as a form of fabric, but I don't think there's anything wrong with starting somewhere, and it's good just to know how to do all the things. But that said, slip stitch is exceedingly rare to be used as an actual stitch to make up the body of a project. And there you go. Even, simple slip stitch. Now let's move on to single crochet. So like this slip stitch, we're going to work the second chain from the hook. So that's the first chain, that's the second chain. You're going to put your hook in there, yarn over, pull up your loop, but this time you're going to yarn over again and then pull through the 2 loops. And this is called single crochet. Here you go. Yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through. Go in, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through. And this is your single crochet, guys. Now this stitch, you'll see it around when you're looking at projects. It is still less common than the next 2 stitches we're going to cover, but it's there. This is a stitch I would highly recommend for you ultra beginners out there to try and work with. Or at the very least, as we review more stitches, just pick one of these stitches and make yourself a simple crocheted scarf. That's going to be crocheting a number of stitches, usually around, between 20 and 40, depending on the yarn size. I recommend you work with a size 3 or DK yarn like the one here, worsted or chunky, in which case you're going to want your number of stitches to be around, 30, 25, and 20, respectively, between DK, worsted, and bulky. And you're just going to do like single crochet all the way up, or double, or half double, and get yourself a project. So now this time we're doing a half double crochet stitch. I'm going to add one little feature here. For half double crochet, we're going to yarn over the hook, then go 2 stitches down from the hook, go in, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, and now this time you're going to pull through all 3 of the loops. Boop. And that's half double crochet. Among some, this can be a real favorite stitch. And so you'll kind of see it pop up. It's more of a sign that that creator really likes the stitch. It's kind of the best of both worlds. It's not quite as dense and short as single crochet, nor is it as open and fluffy as double and triple crochet can be. So I've got nothing bad to say about half double crochet. It's a stitch, it's there, and it works. So another idea, if you're thinking about doing that scarf, highly recommend that your first pattern, your first project as a fledgling crocheter is a simple scarf. Blankets can get exhausting, garments are complicated, so stick to something simple like a scarf. Then you can wear it and feel so good about yourself because you made a scarf. Doesn't that sound nice? And so this would be called, these are foundation rows because they're being worked into chains. And so if I were to continue your project from there, this would be the foundation row. So a foundation row typically is a 2-part step. One part is the chain and the other part is working into the chain with whatever stitch. Isn't she lovely? Nice stretch, right? Soft, supple, looking pretty. That's our half double crochet. Hope y'all keeping up and learning so much. Have any questions or comments? Put them in the comment section down below. If I'm moving too fast, or if you want me to teach you something else. So now we're going to do double crochet. So this time you're going to work in the 3rd chain from the hook. You're going to start with a yarn over, go into the 3rd chain, pull up, yarn over, pull up 2, 1, 2, yarn over, pull up, 1 and 2. Now double crochet is arguably the most commonly used crochet stitch, especially when you're talking about reading patterns, following what other people are doing. You'll see a whole garment of just double crochets or a whole blanket. So this is probably definitely the most favorite, common, enjoyed stitch among crocheters. Double crochet. And so you're just going to go in, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull over 2, yarn over, pull over 2, and do it again. Yarn over, go in, pull up, yarn over, pull up 2, yarn over, pull up 2. Go again, yarn over, go down, pull up, yarn over, pull up 2, yarn over, pull up 2, and there we go. Now you are welcome to do your first project, the scarf, using double crochet if you like. I personally would stick to something a little bit smaller and simpler Also, so you can create denser fabric, something a little more plush and lush. But if you really are feeling a double crochet, then go for it, sis. It is probably the most common stitch out there. It can just be a little complicated. And if it's the first time you doing it, you're more likely to make a mistake, forget to pull up something, and your project will look a little wonky. So I'm trying to set you up for success by giving you a much more simple stitch, which would really be the single crochet, and maybe a slightly more advanced stitch for, somewhat advanced beginners in the group, among my tribe here. So let me know in the talent section, in the comment section, if you feel like you can totally handle doing different stitches, and if I'm just so off base. But I just wanted to make sure there's at least one video from this channel for the absolute newbies who don't even know what to do with a ball of yarn. That's okay, sis, I got you. There's one thing you yarn lovers cannot stand, and that's yarn barf. So that's why you see I've got a nice ball of yarn right there. I had to hand wind a whole ball of yarn barf from the center pull of those skeins. Oh my. But it's all worth it, because here we are, beautiful double crochet stitches. And you see how airy they are, how much space there is in between them. So it's just something to consider when you're looking at a stitch to build a garment with, the drape, the fabric, and so on. But let's move forward to the triple crochet stitch. Now, I rarely see triple crochet being pulled out, mostly because it is a very fluffy, duffy, high, should I say, airy open stitch. Because in order to make this one, you're going to yarn over twice. You're going to work the 4th chain from the hook, work yourself in, and just like a double crochet, but just doing the middle part one more time. Pull up, yarn over 2, yarn over, pull up 2, yarn over, pull up 2, and done. And then you double, yarn over again, yarn over, pull up 2, yarn over, pull up 2, yarn over, pull up 2. So it's something to think about when you are designing your garments, or if you're even just following a pattern. There's so many opportunities to adjust patterns, to edit patterns, to make them your own. And that's really what I want to make sure I empower everyone to do. You don't always have to use the yarn that's on the pattern. You don't always have to use the yarn weight that the pattern says to use. Nor do you have to use the needle size that they say to use. Or anything. It's your project. Adjust as you see fit. In addition, even if you're just trying to start out, you don't know where to begin, you don't know what to do, you're 40 and your grandma taught you how to do this one time when you was 4, and now it's 35 years ago and you don't know, it's okay, sis, I got you. That's what this space is all about. Making sure we all feel cozy and able to just express ourselves and never feeling limited. If there's one goal I have, is to make sure that you as a crafter are never limited. Don't be limited just to crochet, nor just to knitting, nor to not being into yarn, like rug crafts and things like that nature. Like, just don't be limited. Don't be limited into always going to Joann's and Michael's when you want to shop in Walmart. And not that they're evil stores, something wrong with them, but it's just that you can do so much better. There's options out there. Just like there's so many options in crocheting. Along your journey, I'm sure you will see so many different stitches. I will try to introduce you to many of them as long as you're interested. So do let me know in the comment section if you're interested in learning about different kinds of stitches, different kinds of patterns, and what they are, so I can go look them up and then incorporate them into my next video. And here we go. We got our double wrap going. We're getting some nice plush and dense fabric. All right, y'all. You're getting some nice, fluffy, tall stitches going on here. And don't you just love this yarn? What are your thoughts about the Lion Brand ice cream collection? Because I'm low-key in love. So I had the roving divigation for the never-ending hoodie that I am still, of course, working on. And roving yarn is definitely its own thing, but it's not the worst. It's definitely not the best. So I'm really liking this yarn because it's woven and it's plied like proper yarn. And it's delicious. What are some of your favorite yarns? Do you have any? I'm totally interested in learning new things, learning new yarns. I'm so excited to try them all and share them with you. But let's take a look at our triple crochets. See how tall they are in comparison to, like, say, the double crochets? Like, they're very tall stitches and very airy. So it's worth something to think about. I know one sister was saying she's going to make her husband some shorts. So be careful. Or somebody's husband. All right. So let's get into a little fun technique. If you're going to be out here hooking, you need to be hooking right. Okay? So most projects will say, chain this many and then go back to the chain and build your row. But we're not going to do that today. I'm going to teach you how to do a chainless foundation. What does that mean? It means that you're going to start your project with the minimal amount of chaining. Right here we're doing 2 stitches. You're going to yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull up through that 1 loop, yarn over again, and complete your stitch. And that is the technique for chainless foundation. I'm going to show you how to do it in every stitch. But you see, I'm just yarning over and pulling up, yarning over, pulling up 1, and then yarning over and pull up through both to make a proper single crochet. The single crochet stitch is about creating kind of a chain within the stitch by taking that moment to chain 1 on an extra stitch. Does that make sense? This is the single crochet style. You notice how I'm doing it again with no chain. I just chained 2 and worked into the stitch right off the hook, then second stitch on the hook. And you'll also notice my hand placement. This is rather important, as in troubleshooting problems with chainless foundations, is that crocheters may tend to work into the most visible loop, which will likely be the loop for the stitch preceding the one they're working on, if I'm making sense to you all. And you'll end up kind of crocheting a circle when you were supposed to crochet something flat. So there's a single crochet on a foundation row. Looking gorgeous, very stretchy. Now we're going to do that same thing in half double. So get my slip knot started, control my 2 stitches, go ahead and get started, yarn over, pull through, yarn up, and you just do that. It seems like too many times, but that's what it takes. Trust me. You're creating an extra little chain at the bottom of each stitch that you'll work into on the next stitch, which means when you're working your current stitch, you're looking at the base of the stitch you're working again next to and pulling from them to keep moving. So you see me pointing out which loop to go through. This is really key, and I hope you guys can again see my hand placement where I'm pinching with my thumb and forefinger. I'm pinching the bottom of the stitch that was just created, that little slip stitch, and that just make sure on the next stitch I know where to work, because it's very easy to start crocheting a circle without even realizing it doing chainless foundations if you're not careful. And what's also important is after you've created that kind of a slip stitch, you can do the whole stitch as normal. This can be a real time-saving hack, doing chainless foundations, especially for projects where the base doesn't really matter if it's a little loose. That'll mostly be things like sweaters, but you can also use it on certain hat designs as well. Do not underestimate the value. And of course, for flat garments or flatter garments like a sweater, making the bottom rim of a sweater and crocheting up, chainless foundation can help. There's a lot of different places and ways. Of course, for a big thing like a blanket. Because one of the things that can happen when doing a chain foundation, which I purposely went out of my way to avoid for y'all, is scrunching, where the bottom where you cast on is tight and everything else is kind of fluffy and soft next to it. So be mindful, y'all. Be mindful, y'all. Trying to give you guys a nice look. Ain't she pretty? Look at that stretch. And that's a nice thing about using the chainless foundation method, is that you get a nice soft and stretchy fabric. So for the edge of your project, whether it is a kind of looser or more chill beanie hat, or a sweater, a scarf, a blanket, so many different projects, you may like that softer, neater edge, especially since typically the other edges of your fabric will also be a little softer and neater. So what I had just done there was just show you where to hook into when you're doing the chainless foundation, because that's, I think, a really big issue for a lot of people when they're doing it. Now here we are doing it in double crochet. I think one of the biggest mistakes and troubles people have with this method is knowing where to hook into. And where you're going to hook into for the next stitch is where you created that extra chain when you were creating the last stitch, if that makes sense. So the key to watch here is where I place my fingers. You notice I'll keep moving them up the project. And that is to actually help me pull out the loop from the stitch I just worked on. So I have a visual and physical note of where to put my hook in for the next stitch. So I'm going to talk you through this one. So yarn over, You're going to hook through that chain from the last stitch, yarn up, pull through one to create that extra chain, and then finish your stitch. And you see my hands hold it so I know where to hook into, because when you look, you almost can't see where to hook into. You almost want to hook into that already open space, but that's not the one. You already went in there. You're going to hook into that little bitty loop right there at the bottom of the last stitch, not the open loop that's already sticking out. And this is a common mistake with beginners in this method, and you end up creating a circle when you're supposed to create a flat space. So that's why I am just sometimes I lose track of what I'm doing and I undo, and that's a big thing as well. Don't let your ego get the best of you. If for a tiniest second you think you've lost place of what you're doing and where you're doing it, just frog it. Just undo. And we'll do another video discussing terminology, but frogging is what we call ripping out stitches, because you rip it, you rip it, you rip it like a frog. So there's one term for you, little bonus vocabulary word of the day. But, let me know again in the comments if you want me to do more videos on things like this, more of a slower method. I know I broke this longer video up into like 8 or 9 sections because I also understand that sometimes you just want to know how to do one small piece and not slog through a 40-minute, 30-minute video. So this one is just for people who really want to start all the way. So here I am showing you where you'd hook in for the next stitch. It's there. It's the bottom of the stitch you just worked into. That's probably the weirdest part of doing a chainless foundation, is you're hooking into the last stitch you worked on instead of into the chain. So we're going to undo that, and I'm going to show you triple crochet. Now this stitch is definitely used a lot less often. It pops up every now and again. So it's always good to know the main foundation stitches of crochet. So for triple crochet, you're just going to crochet 4. You're going to chain 4, double wrap around your hook. Going to go into the last chain there, the 4th chain. Pull up 1 loop, then run over, pull up through that 1 loop. Then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. And that's that triple crochet. Then yarn over twice. Gonna find that last bit at the bottom. Yarn over, pull through the 1, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. All right? So I hope I'm helping you guys see that chainless foundations is just one technique, which the technique is to create a kind of extra chain at the bottom of the stitch. That is the one technique that you do that allows you to skip 1 row. And I at least find that row of chaining and then working into the chain to be so hard. So for me, this saves me easily 10-20 minutes, depending on the project. So much time. Last little note here, I'll probably make another video about it, but just to know, when you're working this method in double crochet and triple crochet and you're joining in the round, you're going to also need to join your project at the bottom. And I typically just use the tail yarn and connect it to the bottom of the next stitch you join it to, because you will have a little open flap because these stitches are so tall. You can also join at the bottom for the shorter stitches like half double crochet and single crochet, though it's usually not as necessary, but it's a good idea. But it'll definitely be necessary for stitches like double and triple crochet. So that's basically it, y'all. I'm just going to do a few more of these stitches for you to help you guys see what I'm doing. And I just want to ask, if you have any questions, comments, you want me to do this again, do it slower, I can do a live about this. So I plan to do some crochet alongs and knit alongs, knit with me's and crochet with me. So I can definitely do another video, a little more in depth, a little more step by step if you need, to help you learn these methods and how and when to use it. But Yeah, let me know in the comments what you would use this for, if you've ever tried this before, if you have any troubles with this method. And I'm going to put a card up to another video you guys can watch that'll teach you a lot more good methods, especially on when to use it. I have a project where I did or I didn't, so look for that link right here. Okay, bye.